Welcome to the Purple Sky Thinking for Leaders podcast. This podcast is for you if you lead people, teams, or the organisation. You might be a leader or a manager yourself, or you might be part of the support team to help those people to be really successful. I'm Anwen Bottois. I'm the Leadership Success Coach and founder of Purple Sky Consulting, and I'm going to be the host for this podcast. My mission is to help as many leaders as possible to really love what they do. I want to help you to feel more confident, more capable, more effective, so that you can build and grow happy, healthy, more successful teams. This podcast is going to be all about helping you to love leading. Let's get started.
On this episode, I'm meeting Alex Kaye from Elephants, Not Rhinos, and we're having a conversation about the importance of team development for you as a leader. How you can facilitate it, how you can encourage it, and how you can put it into practice so it benefits you and the team. So let's get started with this really interesting conversation with the lovely Alex. Hi, Alex. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. So would you mind just giving us a little introduction about who you are, what you do, why you do it? It'd be lovely to hear that from you.
Yep. I'm Alex. I'm a co-founder of Elephants, Not Rhinos. We are a training company. We focus predominantly on leadership development, and we work with teams to help them collaborate and connect, to help them solve problems, and just to work effectively together. Elephants, Not Rhinos, we get asked the question a lot, where does the name come from? Because elephants are amazing leaders. They are great listeners, great communicators, they're empathetic, and they build really productive teams that work together. They're really good at collaborating. Everyone has responsibility for raising the next generation, and the leader spends a great deal of time sort of training up the next leader. So they've always got that in the sort of back of their mind that they've got to create the next leader out of the group. And as for rhinos, they don't do any of that. So we are elephants, not rhinos.
Love it. I don't think we've ever had that conversation before, actually. So that's really lovely to hear that. I love elephants as well. As there's something calming, and even though they're like that, you know, playing into that analogy, they're like this big thing. You know, for somebody who's in the team, it might look scary to look at the elephant, mightn't it? The leader in the team, but they are amazing as well.
And they're such beautiful animals, and I'm so lucky to have sort of met elephants in real life, and it's amazing.
We might get onto that in a minute on the travel.
Yes, we probably will, won't we?
So, anything that you've missed?
I'm a former teacher, so my background is in education. I am a lifelong learning enthusiast. Every day is a school day. We always have conversations over dinner. You know, what have we learned today? What's new? You know, what's exciting. I'm also a SEND mum. My daughter has a disability, so I'm really passionate about inclusion, and I want a world where everyone has an opportunity to learn, to grow, to be their best, and to do their best work. So I think that drives quite a lot of what I do and why I do it. The favourite part of my job is getting to know our clients, having that conversation with them, really understanding what their challenges are or what their opportunities are, what they're trying to do, and then problem solving with them so that we can create amazing learning opportunities and training that's going to drive the change that they want to see and change those behaviours. So that's the designing part is the exciting bit of the job for me.
I love that. Love it. Thank you for that. So, as you know, we are going to talk about travel next, and I love to kind of travel through other people and to get inspiration from what other people have been doing in their visiting around the world or in the UK. We've had lots of shout outs for the UK. So tell me a little bit about your favourite travel destination or where you'd recommend.
It is my favourite topic, and I'm really lucky to have done quite a lot of travelling. That's how I spent all my time and all my holidays. Obviously, teachers get great holidays, so we also have lots of opportunity to travel. And I lived in Asia for 9 years. So I worked in Thailand for 2 years and Kuala Lumpur for 7 years. That's where I met my husband and I had my children. So Asia is really special for me. The culture, the food, the temples, the beaches, and that always feels like home. But just saying Asia feels like I'm kind of cheating on my former travel partners and the places that I've been. So I was trying to think of the real standout moments. And I think for me, it was always those moments really connecting with either nature or a new culture. I like quiet places. So it's sort of more about the journey than the destination. If that doesn't sound like too much like a Hallmark card. So for me, that was sort of sleeping overnight in my sleeping bag on a patch of grass outside the entrance to Tikal in Guatemala, sneaking past the security guards who weren't that bothered. They waved us in so that we could watch the sunrise over Tikal. If you're a Star Wars fan, that is, where the planes come out in Endor. So that was quite exciting. Sitting in Kakadu and just watching and looking, climbing mountains to see the sunrise. Those are sort of my favourite moments, and I find it really hard to pick one.
Yeah, I mean, you've had some really lovely travel experiences. You're a much more adventurous traveller than I am. The idea of sleeping on grass somewhere is my idea of hell.
I mean, admittedly, I was a lot younger, and I think I always look back on sort of maybe some of those early travels, because it's the traveling that you did without a phone, without Google Maps, without like information about where you could go and eat and all that. It was very much get there, find out, ask people, talk to people. And actually, we've got some of our favourite Asia travel spots in the picture behind us. So.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just trying to have a little look what you've got going on there. Yeah, there's some. Kuala Lumpur's lovely. We were in there for a couple of days, but the energy of that place was wonderful. But I do spot Singapore behind there, and we've done Singapore a few times.
Yeah.
And, that place is incredible. I love it.
I was born there, so I think I was born with the travel bug. We came back to England when I was 3, so that I was always wanting to go off and explore.
So tell me about where you saw the elephants.
So in Thailand, I went back. I took my son last year, and we went to a reserve where they just had 2 elephants. They'd been rescued from a sort of hard labour, and we were able to walk with them and feed them some bananas, and it was just beautiful. It was a really lovely experience.
Yeah, Thailand's incredible. That's where I've had my elephant encounter as well. And again, it was if you're going to visit elephants, make sure you do your research in terms of what you're visiting, and it sounds like you've done that in there as well. Because sometimes they're called sanctuaries and they're not. So be very thoughtful about what you're visiting. But yeah, we had a very similar opportunity, and it was it was Christmas Eve on 2022, and I was there with my mum and one of my closest friends, oldest friends, and my husband, because it was part of our travelling experience, and it was just lovely, like just magical. They are just incredible animals, really incredible. So thank you for sharing.
Amazing Christmas present to do it on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, it was lovely. It was the best Christmas Eve I think I've ever had. So that was absolutely for sure. Yeah, it was amazing. Okay, so let's dive into a little bit more about you and leadership and what that means for you. So tell me a bit about your leadership experiences and what you've learned about yourself from that.
And my experiences of leadership, I think we shouldn't underestimate just how hard it is, especially that first leadership role. And I really didn't enjoy my first leadership role in that sort of first year. Sort of coming out of a team to lead it, and the change in the sort of dynamics with your former teammates. And I came with real beliefs about what I had to be as a leader. And it was very much based on my experience within the team and what had been going on. And I had this idea that I had to protect my team, that I knew how stressful the work was, how busy everyone was, and I felt that I needed to protect them from the changes that were happening and the things that we were being asked to do. So I kind of acted as a bit of a buffer and brought sort of fully formed, fully thought through ideas about what we should be doing and how we should react as a team. And actually that was really disempowering. So my belief that I was protecting them and helping them isn't the experience that they had, and they felt disempowered. Their autonomy had been taken away, and what changed it for me in that first year was having some formal leadership development. It gives you an opportunity to go, okay, I need to change how I'm doing things. But actually being much more self-aware and taking time to reflect on the impact that you have and the decisions you're making and the behaviors that you're showing. Is that what you're intending? The intention behind what you're doing, is that how people are actually experiencing it? And then having the sort of coaching development, that changed everything for me, and taking a different approach, much more sort of guiding rather than telling. That was huge for me. And then sort of from a completely different side of things, I've also been a leader in the voluntary sector. I was chair of a charity, and that's a completely different kettle of fish, because people are there in their own time because they want to. They're all busy people, and they don't have a job description, they don't have KPIs, and it's very much about the vision and creating that North Star and that purpose and taking people on a journey with you. So sort of bringing that skill into leading, I think, is really important as well.
Really interesting. You cannot underestimate the importance of helping people figure the stuff out. Doing the investment with people actually really matters, doesn't it? Because just watching isn't how you develop yourself. It can be useful sometimes in terms of, I don't want to be like that, I do want to be like this. But then actually knowing how to get into that space isn't obvious, is it? And just because you are capable or have really lovely behaviors doesn't mean that automatically translates in them being able to kind of lead a team for the first time.
No, and we work with lots of maybe accidental leaders who are really good at their jobs and get promoted, and it's a completely different set of skills. And maybe there are some sort of natural leaders out there, but maybe the majority of people aren't a natural leader, and it takes work, it takes skill, and it takes time and learning to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I even think people who do have a kind of a natural vibe for it, or an ability, I guess for me, I think sometimes that naturalness comes where it's somebody who's really able to connect well with people. I think that helps you get a certain way without skills.
Yes.
When you're able to connect with people, it helps. But it doesn't mean you know how to manage performance really well, or the things that kind of actually are quite tactical and skills based, but are really important to you succeeding.
And there's lots of data out there that shows how many people go into leadership roles with no training and no development, and are just sort of expected to get on with it. So I think recognizing that it is a real skill, it's a different skill, and it's not easy is really important.
Definitely. So today we are going to be talking about leading through your team and how development plays a really important role in that. So learning, development, however we want to phrase that. Why is that so important for leaders?
Yeah, it's really important for leaders to take an active role in the development of their team and sort of helping people learn. People want to develop. They want to get better at what they do. They want to be seen as competent, and they want to try new things and grow. That very few people just want to stay where they are and not develop. People also want to feel valued. So when a leader takes an active interest in your learning, in your development, you're going to feel valued. You're going to feel that someone cares about your growth. It's not just about the tasks you do and the job you do. It's they see you as someone who is worth spending time thinking about and developing. You're going to see performance improve. If you develop your people, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? You spend time on learning, spend time on development, you will see improvement in performance, in productivity, and it's going to help you understand your people better. What are their motivators? What are their drivers? Where are their skills? What are their areas of development? And it's going to help you as a leader sort of uncover those performance challenges. If you're taking an active role in development and in learning, you're going to be much more aware of what you need to be thinking about in terms of performance. When you take an active role in development, in learning, that's going to drive engagement. People are going to be more motivated. They know that you care, and it drives that connection with the business and that sort of sense of belonging. And teams that learn together, who work together, sort of become resilient. There's lots of talk around change management, and change is constant.
Yeah.
And if you are able to learn and you have a learning culture within your team, you're just going to be much more resilient to that change.
Yeah. And I'm just going to contradict something I said before about watching isn't the way always you learn and develop. But what it does is it instills behaviour, and it instills an attitude towards stuff. So there's something really lovely when you're seeing a leader who invests in their own learning and encourages that in other people. You get permission, don't you, to get involved and to take an active role yourself then in the learning, don't you? Because your leader has demonstrated that that's really important.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, absolutely. So if you're demonstrating that learning is important and it's worth spending time on it, what you see are sort of stronger connections. You are going to build that psychological safety within your team, and that understanding of your people and performance. You build that trust and belonging, and that's the real engagement and motivation.
Yeah, and I love that aspect of the connection piece. And you touched on it before around, what I can learn about my people by being close to what's going on with their development actually is really valuable for me. You're seeing things, aren't you? Like, oh, what are they struggling with? Or what have they sucked up and that was dead easy? And actually, what does that tell me about their capabilities, their strengths, but also maybe the areas they're not interested in? Or actually, is there something else going on here that has nothing to do with this development opportunity, but I've missed a well-being issue, a relationship issue that's going on with maybe the trainer or the person they're trying to work with in that development space? Is that I think it's all that little extra bit of data that you get by being actively involved in a way that you might not if you're not involved in it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think by being actively involved, you're aware of what's going on for that person. You can see what drives them, where they might have some blockers, and then you're able to try and remove blockers, create opportunities that really resonate for that person and how they want to grow. And if you don't have that personal relationship and connection with them, you lose that ability to really drive that personalized learning for them.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts then in terms of what techniques they could be using? What approaches could they be using to really help that team development or that interest in team development?
I think you have to, the sort of first start, before you start thinking about sort of different techniques and different ways of learning, you need to start with awareness. What is it you need to learn? And that's awareness as a team member and awareness as a leader, because it's not just the leader's responsibility to make sure that learning is taking place. So if you think about the team member, how do they know that there is something to learn? One of the arguments people have used for return to the office is that people can't learn if they're not in the office, and it's not the office that creates the learning. Maybe being in the office is going to create an awareness that there is something to learn, but learning is intentional. It doesn't just happen by sitting next to someone. Maybe you could learn from the person who sat next to you, but you have to stop what you're doing and intentionally listen or watch and take in what they're doing. So as a leader, it's like, how can I create that awareness of what there is to learn and how a person can develop, whether that is in the office or whether that is remote and hybrid. You don't know what you don't know. So how are you going to create those opportunities? So within team meetings, and not every team meeting, but within team meetings, opportunities for people to share what they're working on in a little bit more depth, what their successes are, how they got there, what did they do to achieve that, sharing case studies of what people are working on, and simple highs and lows. And that just gives people the opportunity to go, oh, I didn't know what that person was working on. I'm really interested in that. I don't know how to do that, and I would like to. And then as a leader, obviously your role is to know what areas there are, what gaps there are in people's capabilities, and yes, there are organizational tools that might help you do that, but as a leader in a team, you are uniquely positioned to understand your people. You can see their performance on a day-to-day basis. You're the one having one-to-ones with them and performance conversations, so you've got to make sure you're aware of strengths, and then your team member can come and go, yeah, I'd like to learn about this, I'd like to try that. And that all leads into the next stage, which is a conversation. You have to have a conversation about it. There's no point coming in and saying, right, you're going to do this. It's a two-way thing, and sort of motivations for learning are really important as well. Just saying, what do you want to do? How do you want to develop? What interests you? What really turns you off? Really understanding what drives that person, what their motivations are, and that's going to give you an idea of how much support you also need to give them. Is someone like me who loves learning and is going to go, well, I'd like to learn this, and this. Happily go down the rabbit hole, is going to need maybe containing a little bit. And that's setting goals. Okay, what is most important? What are you most interested in? How is that going to benefit the business, the team? Aligning those, and then for other people it might be they might have some barriers against maybe school was hard, and there's a fear of learning. How you're going to support them and guide and motivate them to find their area of interest. Feedback is central to those conversations, giving that developmental feedback, and also celebrating the success, feeding back on what you are good at. And it has to be really specific. You've got to go beyond the well done, great job. So what was good about that? Why am I good at that? What is it that made that a good job? What skills did I use? So that you understand your strengths and why that's a good job, and then areas of development that sort of comes a bit more naturally, and those feedback conversations become a little bit more natural. And then within those conversations, you can set those goals and talk about how you're going to achieve it.
I love that. We touched on connections and the importance of that relationship before, and a couple of things that kind of sprung out to me there were how important the relationship is, understanding your people, and how even for the same development requirement, the solution might not be the same because of different people learn or are in a different place, and that's really important to understand. But also I picked up that role of you as a facilitator, as a leader. So, how do we help open up those doors to the learning that other people are doing, or the growth other people are doing, and what does that then inspire in other conversations or other discussions? And I think that leaders take away that it's not their responsibility to make the development happen, but it is their responsibility to open up those conversations about it and to support and facilitate them moving forward with that development. What do you think about that? That's what I was picking up from what you were saying.
Yeah, it's about unlocking doors, isn't it? And it's providing the opportunity, having that conversation about the fact that there is, you can learn, there are opportunities here. How can we make that happen? How do you learn best? What is going to work for you? Do you want to run at it on your own? Do you want more supported, more structured scaffolding around your learning? And then you can get into the different ways you can do that. And obviously, yes, there's formal training, but that's such a small part of the learning that is going to take place. So whether that is giving someone a stretch assignment, getting them out of their comfort zone, nothing too big, just beyond where they're at, so that they can push themselves a little bit, again with structure, with support, with coaching, with regular check-ins. How can we offer people new experiences to sort of get a taster of what they could be doing? How can they buddy up with more experienced people within the team or within the wider organisation? And as a leader, you talked earlier about demonstrating the importance of learning. And as a leader, how do you demonstrate that learning is important? You can spend time on it. It is developing you, and it is going to be of importance to the team and the organisation. And it's okay to take this hour to shadow this person so that you can learn something new and develop yourself. It's how you can make time for learning within your team, how you can pair people up with mentors so that they can have conversations to support their learning and where they want to go, and how you build learning communities so you can learn together. Learning social.
Yeah.
How can you spend time, whether that's a book club or whether that's someone saying, yeah, I read this or I watched this, I saw this TikTok or this YouTube video that I want to share.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've worked in places where people are constantly sharing things that I've read this, watched this, and it's about taking it one step further. Why? Don't just share this interesting article that you've read. Why should I read it? Why is it important? Why is it relevant to our team? What do you suggest we as a team do about it once we've read it? And how can we then use that as a springboard for changing the way we do things or not? How do we have that discussion about whether that's something we as a team want to do?
Yeah. Learning just on its own is valuable, even if it doesn't end up like shifting anything. It's like, actually, what skills have you developed purely from doing that little bit of learning, and what does that then open up for other times? What I love about what you've described there is this: it's not about training courses. Team development goes beyond that. Of course, there's value for courses at a certain point. There are times where actually that's really, really helpful, but your role as a leader in the team development is looking beyond the structured learning that might be available. It is those micro little moments, those, what can we learn from this project? What can we learn from this task? What is it we've identified as a team that was a strength there? What have we identified that maybe we need to do some work on? What was it we were going to want to do about that? And I think that's really important, is to look at team development beyond the structured stuff. It's in the day-to-day.
Yes. Yeah. And it's taking we've completed this piece of work. What went well? Why did it go well? What could we do better, even better next time? But also where there's things that haven't gone wrong, taking out that blame and treating it as a learning opportunity. What led to the failure? Why? What can we learn from that? How are we going to do it differently next time? Because if you don't have that conversation, then nothing is going to change. You've got to sort of shift the dial by actually looking at the why and learning from it.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And kind of circling back to your experience of leadership, what was really interesting about where you saw the step change for you as a leader was when you did have some more formal leadership development. So we're kind of tying that back in terms of actually sometimes structured learning is a good thing. And everything that we've been talking about in this session, if you've never done this stuff before as a leader, this might feel scary to do for the first time. What are your thoughts in terms of maybe how they could help themselves to step into this space?
Obviously, formal training programs can sort of help with that, but sort of creating peer communities, getting a mentor yourself, learning together, talking about, well, what have you done with that? I've got this situation. How would you approach that? Coming up with different ideas, sort of taking more of an action learning approach to what you're doing, but also be kind to yourself. You're not going to do everything right the first time. We always talk about shitty first draft. No one is perfect the first time. So long as you stop and reflect and think, okay, what went well? Celebrate success. And what would I do better next time? And learning is incremental. You don't go from here to here. It's steps, and in general, sort of gradual improvement. And sort of be kind to yourself that is the process and the journey. And asking for advice from your leader and coaching from your leader.
I think that's a really lovely way of describing the leadership development journey of its steps. It's work in progress. It's not going to be amazing first. Even when you've been through training, you've still got to learn by putting it into practice. And it's like you said, you've just got to get on with it, try it. Well, ask for feedback from people as well of how they've experienced that, like you described earlier, and learn from it and keep going. And once you start feeling the benefits of doing it, you'll keep going and it'll become easier.
Yeah. And formal learning is really important. This is what we do, so but it's the first step. You've got to apply it. You can have all the information and learning in the world, but you've got to apply it, and that takes bravery, because you've got to do something different, and you just have to give it a go. And as a leader, if you're team are going through formal training, well, how do you then support them once they are back in the office and back in the day to apply what they've learnt? And that comes through coaching. You know, what did you learn? How are you going to apply it? What's the first step you're going to take? What are you going to do differently? Come back and talk to me. How did it go? You know, holding people accountable to actually put into practice the learning that they're taking.
So important. The embedding of the learning, that's where the return on investment is.
Yes.
That's the difference maker. So you can spend all this time, energy, money on courses, or even that team stuff, that in the day-to-day stuff. If you then never embed anything from that, in a way, a lot of that is lost.
Yes. It's so important. We have one client, I've had a wonderful conversation with them recently, and what I love working with them is that you go back a year later, 2 years later, and see how it's embedded. They take the language and they put that into their day-to-day. They create processes, they hold each other accountable, and they take their learning really seriously. And it's not just a day out the office and wasn't that interesting. It is, how are we going to embed it?
Amazing. I totally love that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better as somebody who's working with a client in that space where the time and energy you're putting in is a return as well.
Yes.
I mean, obviously paid for that time and all that kind of stuff, but there is something beautiful about knowing that the impact is really driving up and that they are owning their investment in that as well. It's lovely. Yeah. Fantastic. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
It's probably more of a summary. Build those strong relationships. Create that psychological safety so your team feel safe to say, I don't know how to do that, or I'd like to do that. To give them the opportunity to feel safe, to give something a go and get it wrong. And to fail. With my teacher head on, I had a sign above my whiteboard that said, fail is first attempt in learning. It's no one gets it right first time, and you have to really create that safety so that people are willing to take that step and be brave. Make feedback a habit, positive and developmental, not just as a leader giving feedback to your team, but encouraging peer feedback, encouraging feedback back to you, so that it feels natural and normal. So when developmental feedback comes, it's taken on board in the sense that it's meant, this is for development, this is for learning. And by making sure that you're celebrating those successes within that feedback as well is really important. And that, again, that builds those strong relationships and that psychological safety as well.
Love that.
And then probably the final thing I would say, again with my primary school teacher hat on, when we started a new topic, we would have a wow day, and we had Olympic opening ceremonies. I dressed up as Howard Carter, the Egyptologist, and took my children to Tutankhamun's tomb with torches where we found treasure, just to inspire that learning and to make people really motivated to find out more and to learn. And obviously, as a leader in a business, you're not going to do that. You're not going to dress up, but you need to think about, well, how do I inspire and motivate the people that I have? How do I help them get engaged in learning? And the way you're going to do that is through, again, those relationships and understanding what motivates them.
I've definitely worked in businesses where there has been a lot of dressing up at certain points. It might not have all been learning related. It was definitely in the Halloween or Christmas related zone. But I'm sure that also prompted learning in terms of being comfortable to be, a bit uncomfortable about things. I remember going in, I think we were doing Children in Need or something, and going in our pajamas. God, that felt weird, walking to centre like that. That was not a comfortable thing. But sometimes you've got to show your ability to go out your comfort zone a little bit. So yeah, really lovely tips there. Thank you so much. So where can our listeners find you, Alex?
Look at elephantsnotrhinos.com. You'll find out all about us and what we do. I'm on LinkedIn as well, so do connect with me there. I love new connections and talking to new people. So yeah, find me there to connect.
And I will put all those links in the show notes and comments for YouTube as well. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. That was a really, really brilliant conversation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Fantastic. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining this episode of the Purple Sky Thinking for Leaders podcast. You'll find all the resources and the links that we mentioned down in the show notes. If you love this episode, why not share it with somebody else in a leadership role who you think would find this useful? If you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. And if we've earned it, why not leave us a 5-star review? I'm Anwen, your host, and I look forward to welcoming you back to the Purple Sky Thinking for Leaders podcast very soon. Bye for now.